Once upon a time, there lived a girl named Adara, who lived alone with her handsome father. Her mother died after giving birth to her, leaving her father with the sole responsibility of caring for her for over 18 years. Her father, a deacon named Eden, took good care of her, providing her the best of everything in life. They spent so much time together, creating a bond that seemed to be unbreakable. Idara loved her father so much and never spent a day without seeing or talking to him. Idara finally gained admission into the university. Her campus was 2 hours away, and she could not stand the thought of being away from her father. However, her father, Deacon Eden, encouraged her, reminding her that education was important for her future. He promised to visit her often, and Idara was happy, knowing he never went back on his promises. She left for school and made new friends who made her time there pleasant. After several months away, Idara returned home to the shock of her life. She walked into her father's mansion and was welcomed by a strange woman who introduced herself as his girlfriend. Idara stood there, confused, as her father walked up to her to welcome her home. He was delighted to introduce Imam to his daughter, who did not look happy to see another woman in their home. Idara forced a smile, tried to mask the storm brewing within her. She had always thought her father as hers alone, a bond she believed was too sacred to be broken by anyone. Still, she knew better than to show her displeasure in front of him, so she pretended to be welcoming toward Imam, who was so delighted at Idara's apparent friendliness. What Imam did not know was that beneath Idara's smile was a brewing storm of anger and resentment. It felt as though Idara's perfect world had been shattered into a million pieces. She felt betrayed by her father, who she never believed would love another woman. Despite her hurt, she vowed to keep her feelings hidden. Idara watched Imam closely, pretending to be cool with her. They watched television together and sat on the couch talking and laughing for hours. Imam thought she had won Idara over, never suspecting that Idara was waiting for the right moment to strike. The next morning, Idara joined Imam in the kitchen to prepare breakfast. It was a beautiful morning, and her father had requested some boiled yam and egg sauce. Imam, who was a very good cook, was making the sauce when Idara walked in. "I can see that you're cooking," Idara said to Imam, who smiled and informed her she was making Eden's favorite meal. Idara saw this as an opportunity to sow seeds of discord. She struck up a conversation with Imam, asking why she had decided to stay with her father. Imam blushed as she began listing all the wonderful reasons she had decided to stick with him. Idara felt her anger rising, but she pretended to have just remembered something, excusing herself from the kitchen. A few hours later, Imam heard her name being called by Eden. She rushed to him and realized he was holding some items in his hand. "Why did you steal from me?" Eden asked Imam, who stood there confused, wondering what he was talking about. "Steal? What are you talking about?" Imam asked, her voice trembling with confusion and fear. She stared at the items in Eden's hands, items she had never seen before. "I don't know what you're talking about." "I'm not a thief," she said as Eden demanded to know why his possessions were found in her bag. Imam stood there, stunned, tried to explain that she wasn't a thief. Even Idara joined Imam in pleading with her father, who nonetheless threw Imam out of the house and warned her never to return. Imam, confused and unable to comprehend what had just happened, continued pleading, but it fell on deaf ears. Eden made up his mind never to have anything to do with a thief. Idara could hardly contain her joy. She pretended to be sad about the incident, while secretly jubilating in her heart months past, and Eden moved on with his life. His focus was now solely on Idara, who was happy to have her father all to herself. However, loneliness began to creep into Eden's life again. He met a woman named UK, a kind and gentle woman who worked as a business consultant for a reputable company. UK was graceful and had a calm demeanor that won Eden over quickly. When he introduced her to Idara, Idara greeted her warmly, but, in her mind, was already planning her next move. One evening, UK decided to spend a few days at their home. She arrived to find Idara looking delighted to see her. Idara even prepared a delicious meal and was very friendly toward her, discussing all sorts of wonderful things about her father. Days passed, and things seemed to be going smoothly. UK told her friends how nice Idara was, and everyone was relieved to hear such positive reports. UK felt that she was finally becoming a part of the family. What she did not know was that Adara was working on a diabolical plan to ensure UK never ended up with her dear father. Late one night, Adara snuck into UK's room and rummaged through her belongings. She found a pair of clean panties, carefully folded in UK's suitcase. Adara smiled, knowing exactly what to do. She took the panties and soaked them in the septic tank outside their home, ensuring they were drenched in foul-smelling water. Afterwards, Adara lightly rinsed them to keep the stench intact, but not immediately noticeable. Then she carefully placed the panties in a bucket and left it in her father's bathroom. Adara knew how much her father hated anything dirty, and was certain her plan would work. She crept back to her room, waiting for the drama to unfold the next morning. As Eden prepared to take a shower, he walked into the bathroom and was hit by an unbearable stench coming from the bucket. Confused and horrified, he noticed the soiled panties in the water. Shocked, he grabbed the bucket and rushed to find UK. "Are you a pig?" he asked UK, who looked at him in utter shock. "Excuse me? How dare you call me a pig?" she replied, her voice trembling with hurt and confusion. Eden thrust the bucket into her hands, anger coloring his every word. "Explain this. What kind of woman wears such a smelly and filthy panty? And how dare you leave in my bathroom?" He bellowed angrily, while UK stared at the bucket in horror, the stench assaulting her nose. Her voice trembled as she insisted, "These aren't mine." But Eden was too angry to listen. "Don't insult my intelligence. This was in my bathroom, and you're the only one who's been using it besides me." Tears filled UK's eyes as Eden ordered her to leave and never return. Adara rushed out, acting shocked. "Father, what's the problem?" she asked, covering her nose and asking where the stench came from. She pretended to be horrified when Eden explained what happened. Adara stood there, feigning sadness, watching UK pack her things and leave in disgrace. She comforted her father, assuring him that one day he would find the perfect woman. Eden shook his head in agreement as he retreated to his room, never suspecting that Adara was responsible for everything. Months passed, and once again Eden found himself longing for companionship. Despite Adara's presence, he desired the company of a partner. One day, while leaving the barbershop, Eden met a beautiful woman named Itong. She was strong-willed, confident, and carried herself with an air of grace. Immediately, Eden was drawn to her. She was observant, calm, and not easily intimidated. When he introduced her to Adara, Itong smiled warmly, but the moment their eyes met, she sensed a hidden storm brewing behind Adara's charming facade. "I've heard so much about you, Adara," Itong said kindly. "And I've heard so much about you, too," Adara replied sweetly, even though she was already plotting how to get rid of Itong. In the days that followed, Adara studied Itong closely, feigning friendship while thinking of the best way to remove her from her father's life. One day, Adara snuck into her father's room with a small calabash tied with a red cloth, placing his picture and other strange objects inside it to make it look suspicious. She hid it under his table, hoping he would suspect witchcraft. Quietly, she crept back to her room and waited for the uproar when Eden discovered it. Hours later, Adara overheard her father yelling in his room. She rushed in, expecting her plan to have worked, only to find her father furious for a different reason. He was holding a photo of Adara in a club, drinking from a bottle of alcohol and dancing provocatively with strange boys. Adara was ashamed and began apologizing, but Eden walked out disappointed. Adara could not believe how things had turned against her. She looked under her father's table and realized the calabash she'd placed there was nowhere to be found. Suspecting Itong had somehow intercepted her plan, Adara retreated to her room in anger. Later, Itong checked on her. "Are you okay, Adara?" she asked gently. "Why do you care if I'm okay?" Adara snapped, her voice sharp. Itong remained calm. "Because I care about your father, and by extension, I care about you. I can see you're struggling with something. If there's anything I can do to help, please let me know," she said softly. Adara scoffed. "After what you just did, you have a nerve to act kind toward me." "Soon enough, my father will see you for who you are," she said, ordering Itong to leave her room. Itong quietly left, noticing how angry Adara was. A few hours later, Idara passed the kitchen and saw that Aitong had just prepared a pot of stew. Idara snuck in, poured a heaping spoonful of salt into it, and stirred until it dissolved. Then she hurried back to her room to wait for the fallout. Soon, Aitong knocked on Idara's door, inviting her to dinner. Idara joined her father at the dining table, expecting him to be disgusted by the over-salted stew. Instead, Eden smiled broadly as he ate. "This is delicious, Aitong. I don't think I've ever tasted stew this good," he exclaimed, taking another spoonful. Idara's jaw dropped. She quickly tasted a spoonful from her own plate and nearly gagged. It was horribly salty. She realized Aitong must have served Eden a different stew and kept the salty one for Idara. Not wanting to waste food and arouse suspicion, Idara forced herself to eat. Her eyes watered, and her throat ached with each mouthful, but she pushed through, not wanting her father to realize anything was amiss. Aitong noticed Idara's discomfort, but said nothing, keeping a neutral expression. Meanwhile, Eden happily finished his meal, remarking on Aitong's cooking skills. Idara, stomach churning and pride wounded, retreated to her room in defeat. Realizing her plan had once again backfired the next morning, Idara sat in her room, determined to find a new plan to drive Aitong away. While going through Aitong's bag, she discovered her health card and learned that Aitong was asthmatic, something Aitong had not yet revealed to her father. Idara knew Eden would never want to be with a woman who suffered from asthma, because that was the illness that claimed Idara's mother's life. The pain of that loss had shaped many of Eden's decisions, and Idara was certain he would avoid anything that reminded him of her mother's death. Idara decided to expose Aitong. She lit a candle and left on a table in her father's bedroom, believing the smoke would trigger an attack serious enough to reveal Aitong's secret. Then Idara left the house, going to a friend's place nearby so no one would suspect her. She was certain Aitong's suffering would lead Eden to discover her asthma and end the relationship for good. What Idara never anticipated was how badly this plan would go. A few hours later, she received a call from an unknown number, telling her that her father had been rushed to the hospital. Terrified, she hurried there, only to find Eden lying with severe burns on his face and body. She learned that the candle had started a fire that engulfed their entire home. Wind had blown the curtain toward the flame, and the blaze spread quickly. Smelling smoke, Eden had rushed in to check and found Aitong unconscious on the floor, close to the raging fire. He tried to save her, only for the flames to catch onto his clothing. Despite the danger and pain, he shielded Aitong with his own body and dragged her out. By the time he escaped, he had sustained terrible burns at the hospital. Idara was frozen with guilt when she saw her father wrapped in bandages, his face marked with burns. She realized in horror that her plan had nearly killed him. Aitong, who had suffered an asthma attack during the ordeal, was also hospitalized, alive only because Eden had risked his life to save her. Idara stood there, trembling, as the doctor struggled to ease her father's pain. He looked at her with disappointment and heartbreak. "Why did you do this to us, Idara?" he asked, his eyes weary. Tears streamed down Idara's face as she fell to her knees, pleading for forgiveness. "Father, I didn't mean for it to go this far. I just wanted her gone. I thought if you knew about her asthma, you'd send her away. I wanted things to go back to how they were, just you and me." Eden closed his eyes, his face etched with sorrow. "You let your jealousy blind you, Idara. You could have lost me today. Was your hatred for Aitong so great that you would risk everything?" Idara sobbed uncontrollably, unable to respond. She looked at Aitong, who was still unconscious, realizing she had endangered both an innocent woman and her own father. Hours later, when Aitong finally awoke and saw Idara trembling with remorse, she offered a weak smile despite her pain. "You're still here," Aitong said softly. "I thought you would be long gone by now." Idara shook her head. "I don't know how to face you. I don't know how to fix any of this." "You can start by telling the truth," Aitong replied calmly. "Not just to me, but to your father. He deserves to know everything." Idara nodded, wiping her tears. Turning to Eden, she confessed everything, how she had sabotaged his past relationships with Imam and UK, framed them as thieves or dirty women, and deliberately caused the fire to expose Aitong's asthma. When she finished, the room fell silent. Eden's expression was unreadable, but his eyes showed a deep sadness that pierced Idara's heart. "I don't know what to say to you, Idara," Eden finally said, his voice trembling. "You betrayed me in ways I never thought possible. But more than that, you've hurt innocent people who did not deserve it, all because you couldn't share my love." "I'm so sorry, Father," Idara whispered. "I'll do anything to make it right. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make it up to you." Eden sighed. "Sorry isn't enough. Idara, you need to change, and change doesn't happen overnight. You caused so much pain, but I hope this is the wake-up call you need." Turning to Aitong, he said, "I'm sorry for everything you've been through because of us. You don't deserve this." Aitong gave a faint smile. "Love is mercy, Eden, and families can be merciful too. I just hope we can heal from this together." In the weeks that followed, Idara began to make amends. She apologized to Imam and UK, admitting her wrongdoings and asking for their forgiveness. She also attended therapy to address her deep-seated fears and jealousy, determined to be a better person. The scars from the fire remained, reminding everyone of the cost of Idara's actions. Over time, though, she slowly rebuilt her relationship with her father and began to earn Aitong's trust. For the first time in her life, Idara understood that love was not something to hoard or control. It was something to be shared, growing stronger the more freely it was given. With that realization, she found a peace she had never known before. The lesson from this story is that jealousy and selfishness can destroy not only others, but also yourself. Learn to respect the choices of others, and do not let selfishness drive you to ruin people's lives. Relationships are built on trust, understanding, and mutual respect. Attempts at manipulation or sabotage lead only to pain and regret. Also, no matter how far you've gone down a destructive path, the journey to healing begins with honesty and a willingness to change. It is never too late to learn from your mistakes and start afresh. I hope you enjoyed the story.